India's Supreme Court has ordered the setting up of a national task force of doctors to recommend steps to ensure safety at the workplace, as calls for justice intensify nationwide over the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata earlier this month. The task force will consist of doctors, top central bureaucrats, the health minister and cabinet secretary. The top court wants the unit to come up with action plans on two key areas: the prevention of violence against medical professionals and a national protocol to ensure dignified and safe working conditions. The group is expected to release an interim report within 3 weeks. The Supreme Court has also given federal police until Thursday to submit a status report on its investigation into the rape and killing. The court took up the case on its own after it was transferred to the Central Bureau of Investigation, following widespread criticism about the probe being conducted by the Kolkata police. The country's highest court also called on all medical professionals to call off their strike. Protests across India have entered their second week. Doctors' associations in multiple cities have continued to boycott non-essential services.
So we would really earnestly appeal to all the doctors that we are here to ensure that their safety and protection is a matter of the highest national concern. And therefore, this is something which we would earnestly appeal to all the young doctors that this is something, please trust us.
And for more, Rebecca Bundhun joins us live from Mumbai. Rebecca, how have reactions been to these orders from India's Supreme Court?
Generally, the reaction we are seeing from doctors seems to be positive. They seem to welcome the move that the Supreme Court has decided to set up a national task force to ensure doctors' safety, to come up with measures to ensure that they are protected against violence. However, one of the main associations that's actually behind a lot of the protests, the strikes that have been taking place in India by doctors, has still actually yet to make a decision on whether it will call off its protests and strikes in reaction to what's come out from the Supreme Court. So we still have to wait to hear from whether they're actually happy enough with that, whether that appeases them for now enough to the extent that they will call off these strikes. But the Supreme Court really seemed to be on the same page as these doctors that have been protesting, that have been staging strikes, including a 24-hour nationwide strike that took place over the weekend, which actually involved a lot of non-emergency services at hospitals coming to a standstill in some cases. So the Supreme Court talked about these failings in the system, that doctors clearly aren't protected enough, that they are at risk, particularly female doctors, and it talked about the need for sweeping measures that should be taken, including CCTV, for example, better security at hospitals, better lightings in areas, and areas where female staff and other staff can rest safely. So really the Supreme Court calling for these measures to be taken. It's set up this national task force now that will include some of the country's top doctors, also the Home Minister, the Health Minister. One of the associations has suggested that interns and junior doctors should also be part of this. But the Supreme Court is saying that in 3 weeks that this task force should actually deliver an interim report, and then in 2 months there should be a final report which should make those final suggestions on what needs to be put in place to keep doctors safe in the country. With this incident in Kolkata, that rape and murder of a 31-year-old female trainee doctor, really highlighting the challenges, the risks that doctors are at in India.
Rebecca, if we've been looking at the protests over the last few days, the demands are several. One of them, as you just mentioned, was sweeping changes to the system itself. The other is for speedy justice for this 31-year-old medic who was raped and killed. Our next hearing for this case is set for the 22nd of August. What's likely to happen on that date?
Yes, that's right. And on the 22nd of August, that's when the CBI, the Federal Police, actually have to deliver a report which will actually summarise the investigation that they've done so far, their findings so far. Now, that case of the rape and murder was actually transferred to the CBI after people, including the family of the victim, expressed dissatisfaction with the way that the state police were actually handling the case. So that's going to be critical now. That's going to be looked at very, very closely by the Supreme Court. And not just that case in particular. There was also an incident of violence that took place after the rape and murder when a mob actually vandalized that hospital in Kolkata where the incident took place. And that's also something that's going to be discussed. So some of these broader issues will now be looked at as well as the investigation, also the broader issues, women's safety more generally in the country as well, because it's not just doctors who have been protesting, it's also women's rights groups, it's citizens, students. They've been protesting because they're saying that since 2012, when there was that brutal gang rape and murder of a woman on a bus in Delhi, and the laws were actually tightened after that, they're saying very little has changed, that we're still seeing an unsafe environment for women in India, which has been really brought into focus by the incident that took place in Kolkata. So a lot of them are still planning to continue with their protests and continue to raise their voices amid these concerns about women's safety more generally in the country.
Thanks. Rebecca Bundhun reporting live to us there from Mumbai.